Now, I would like to call upon Yang Amat Mulia Tunku Abidin Muhriz, President of IDEAS, to give his opening speech. Amat Mulia.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Ma, for that very kind introduction. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri, Yang berbahagia Datuk Latin, Yang berhormat, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for attending today's event. This roundtable forms part of IDEAS' efforts to work with other think tanks in gatherings of practice thinkers and public policy experts to push the envelope on a certain issue. We are here today to discuss local elections. As a think tank that believes in the rule of law, limited government, free markets and individual liberty, giving power back to the rakyat is very close to our hearts at IDEAS. We want to see more powers devolved to the people, not concentrated in the hands of few individuals in Putrajaya, or Kota Baru, or Kota Kinabalu, or in any of the other state capitals. As we can see from history worldwide, violations of rule of law often occur when power is concentrated at the top. This is why separation and devolution of powers are so important. These divisions of responsibility provide checks and balances. Earlier this year, our Prime Minister said that the era of government knows best was over. I like his statement, because it indicates that the government wants to trust people and communities to get things done instead of trying to do everything for them. But I'd like to say, in truth, that the era of government knows best probably never existed. What we had was an era in which the government assumed it knew best. I don't think it's possible for bureaucrats sitting in plush offices in Kuala Lumpur or Putrajaya to really know the needs of people in Parit Bunta or Sepilok. It seems intuitive and logical that people who live in local communities are more likely to know what these needs really are. And if we take the example of a country like the United Kingdom, local authorities there are responsible for delivering or maintaining services including education, health and social care and public transportation. Decisions on these major issues, which have a great impact on our everyday lives, are, at least in theory, made based on local needs and local realities. That is very different from local authorities in Malaysia, where it isn't even possible to superficially make that claim. Nevertheless, if powers are to be devolved, it is essential that local decision makers are legitimate, that they truly represent the people. Having local elections is, on the face of it, the most straightforward way to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, the framers of our constitution envisaged that there would always be three levels of government in this country: federal, state, and local. And indeed, we have enjoyed all three since Merdeka. But whereas the Dewan Rakyat and Dewan Undangan Negeri, or state legislative assemblies, have always consisted of elected representatives, our local councillors and mayors have not been. Local elections were suspended in 1965 in the midst of communist and Indonesian threats. There was a great danger that local communities would be coerced or infiltrated by insurgents. And given the atmosphere of terror and violence, I have no doubt that suspending local elections was in fact the right thing to do at the time. Tunku Abidin Muhriz promised to restore local elections after the situation improved. And to that end, he established the Royal Commission of Inquiry on Local Authorities, headed by the late Tan Sri Nahapan. This was in fact the first Royal Commission of Inquiry ever formed in Malaysia, showing how important the issue was to the late Tunku. The 350-page Ati Nahapan report, published in 1970, was unambiguous in its support for local elections. In Chapter 7 of the report, the Commission discussed at great length the pros and cons of having elections in state capitals. They then argued that elections would be the best way forward for local authorities both in and outside the state capitals. In 1973, under the premiership of Tun Abdul Razak, the Local Authorities Temporary Provisions Act was passed. According to Professor Johan Saravanubutu, this act in theory implemented some of the recommendations of the Nahapan report. However, the Local Government Act of 1976 reaffirmed the death knell of local elections, and this is what we have inherited to this day. We have 151 local authorities nationwide, classified into one of several types: city halls or councils, municipal councils, district councils and corporations, development boards or authorities, and special or modified local authorities. None are elected. And the battle between those who want to now reinstate local elections and those who want to keep the status quo has been raging for some time now. Indeed, the Malaysia think tank, IDEA's predecessor, had a roundtable last year in which some of these issues were discussed. Today's event is a timely re-engagement of development since. The case for local elections remains compelling. The fact is, we care about our roads, our drains, the frequency and manner in which our rubbish is collected, the safety of our playgrounds, the security of our streets. We can already see evidence in how many families in many neighborhoods up and down the country have worked together to address local government inaction. They have committed resources to hire private security firms to protect their streets. They have organized carpooling, not only for safety purposes, but also to minimize traffic jams and carbon footprints. And they organize their own recycling schemes. Still, I am aware that there are many reasonable objections to reintroducing local elections now. One is the fear that no one would turn up to vote. Even in the UK, local elections regularly have a turnout of fewer than 50%, sometimes as low as 20%, hardly representative. Then there is the fear that people might regard the elections as opinion polls on federal or state government performance, rather than really about the delivery of local services. Indeed, we should question the politicians who want to reintroduce local elections too. What is their real motivation? Is it genuinely to devolve local powers to local people, or is it a method of aggrandizement and justifying ever-increasing intrusions into our daily lives? Furthermore, are there enough safeguards in place with regards to transparency and accountability? Elections alone do not guarantee these. After all, our state and federal lawmakers are elected, but there are still cases of corruption and squander. Do we really want another layer of possible thieves and scoundrels? I don't think anyone in this room would say yes to that. And that is why it is important for political parties to look also at their methods of candidate selection internally too. Finally, there are questions about cost and capacity of the civil service. A return to local council elections would be a significant undertaking, requiring staff, observers, and venues. Can we afford such things now? And does the Election Commission enjoy the public confidence to carry it out? Despite all of these question marks and concerns, I think in the long run, local elections will probably be restored. Reforms are often too little too late, or too much too quickly, and I'm sure our speakers today will shed new light and the latest thinking into the debate. I defer to their superior knowledge and experience. Thank you very much for your attention.